Great. Thank you, Commissioners. Copies of today's PowerPoint there at the corner. And just as backdrop, not so many months ago in December, you adopted a 2010 budget. And that was really the culmination of really a very good process, I think, of working with the different independently elected officials and the department directors to really try as best we could to anticipate what the next couple of years might look like. And difficult choices were made to try to adopt a budget in 2010 that would allow us to gain some stability, hopefully, for not only 2010 but 2011, in which to focus on how we're delivering service, how we're improving our efficiencies, rather than being in perpetual budget reduction mode. And difficult choices were made. We reduced our staffing within the general fund, and also made some substantial service reductions that were very difficult to contemplate. The current economic recession that our nation is, by some accounts, starting to climb out of continues, though, to reverberate through Washington State and the Olympic Peninsula in ways that we couldn't foresee. So that brings us to today. And I wanted to update you. Last week, we held a budget committee meeting with the independent electeds and some of the department staff and directors, and wanted to report to you in this forum that so far, as we're looking in the first two months of 2010 and starting to close in on the end of the quarter, that so far our general fund revenues are running on the low side, and enough so that it's, I think, deserves some attention. In particular, sales tax are, depending on which years you use as guideposts, are running between about 4.5% to 7% below what we would have wished to have seen cumulatively for January and February. There are signs that private timber harvest tax revenues have recovered somewhat, but they still may be running low and could potentially be running below what we had budgeted for. We were visited a month or so ago by a delegation from the State Department of Natural Resources, and for both the private timber and the DNR, this is still, as a rural county, we still have substantial timber harvest that brings revenues into our general fund. So both the private timber harvest tax and revenue from the Department of Natural Resources are important revenues, and we are working with DNR. They've promised us to come up with a revised estimate of revenues that we might see in 2010. So we're still working with them to try to bring that in to get a better gauge of how we're looking for the year. In the auditor's office, document recording is running about 14% below what we might hope to see. Licensing is running about 10% below for this time of the year. And significantly also real estate excise tax, which is a barometer of, as is document recording, is oftentimes a barometer of what kind of real estate activity there is out there. The housing market and commercial market continue to be somewhat depressed, and real estate excise tax is running about 10% 10% below what we would like to have seen so far this year. What that means is, while real estate excise tax does not flow directly into the general fund, we do have county bonds, capital bonds, that are paid for by real estate excise tax proceeds. And in the event that real estate excise tax does not fully cover the bond payments, then we need to look elsewhere in the county budget to make up the difference. And that could potentially affect the general fund. I wanted to bring this to your attention, and basically right now we're 2 months into the year. We're watch carefully mode. So in looking ahead, by the end of this month, we will have a new set of revenues, particularly from the state. So in looking at those numbers, we will be looking to do a number of things. Number one, want to make sure that we're in a position that we will be keeping the 2010 budget a balanced budget. In other words, that our expenditures will not exceed our revenues, and the portion of unencumbered general fund that we judiciously may wish to draw upon. Want to look, as we are, if we need to consider any adjustments, that we want to make sure that we're doing the best we can to protect our employees and retain public services that the public is relying on in these difficult times. And we also want to continue to protect our ability to do so next year and beyond. So we don't want to spend all our assets in any one year.